Drugs, they were okay at the time, but we outgrew them, you know. We just, you know, we took LSD, we took cocaine, we took vast amounts of marijuana.
So ladies and gentlemen, I realised I've not actually made any videos covering Ozzy Osbourne or Hulk Hogan here on this channel because frankly it's been a bit of a crazy week where my PC performance was concerned, but today I thought I'd give you two for the price of one and pay tribute to these giants of pop culture, of which we will never get the likes of ever again. I know it's a bit of a worn out cliche at this point.
All right, monkey, do what he said.
Kung Fu Hot Dog, you rock.
The name's Nukem. Duke Nukem.
Kept you waiting, huh?
Come get some. Hey, numbnuts. Relive the 80s and 90s with Kung Fu Hot Dog.
But let's start off with Ozzy Osbourne since he actually passed away first. And by the way, Jamal Michael Warner, who played one of the Huxtable kids in the Cosby Show back in the day, he passed away on that weekend. And then Ozzy and then Hulk. So technically, it really was the rule of three, so to speak. So rest in peace to Mr. Warner, but we do need to talk about Ozzy Osbourne here first of all. And when I heard about his death, I did say to a friend of mine, a fellow metalhead called Sam, that I wasn't surprised in the end that Ozzy passed away. I know a lot of heavy metal fans were absolutely shocked. Of course, I was shocked, but seeing Ozzy on stage in Birmingham, not personally, just the coverage I had watched myself where he was headlined and supported by Slayer and Metallica. I mean, back in the day, can you imagine that lineup when all those guys were in their absolute prime? Holy shit, that would have been a spectacle. I did say to Sam that it felt like a bit of a cop-out in some ways because Ozzy was just there for a few moments at the time, sat down. Obviously he had a back operation, which he did not want, by the way, and unfortunately because he was forced to have that back operation, it made his condition worse, which is why he ended up sitting down on his throne on stage as opposed to walking around. So that was really sad. And I will say that while people got their money's worth, it wouldn't have been the farewell I had in mind for Black Sabbath. But I digress a little bit here, folks. And speaking of heavy metal, because the argument has always been, who invented it first? Was it the Beatles or the Helter Skelter? And for that particular track, I would say that John Lennon should have been on vocals, not Paul McCartney, who sounded like he was really trying hard to reach those upper echelons. Or was it Led Zeppelin? And I would say, well, maybe the Beatles just etched in there very slightly, but Black Sabbath, who were known as Earth before they became Black Sabbath, after a trilogy of Italian horror films. Thank you, Italy, for allowing a Midlands-based band to take your name and cast it out there. Just phenomenal. But yeah, we know the rest, right? Again, Paranoid, War Pigs, my absolute favorite Black Sabbath song. Again, 2011, Gears of War 3.
Marcus, if you get this message, I need your help.
It reintroduced people to that particular song, Nib. I mean, you can go through that listing. Obviously, Ozzy had a bit of a breakup from the band in the late 70s because of his, shall we say, issues with drugs and everything else. But if you look at the childhood of Ozzy Osbourne, it was not a pleasant one anyway. The man was constantly assaulted at school by other men, shall we say. It's really effing awful, actually. And if I've actually misinterpreted that part of his timeline, then obviously I will correct it here with a few footnotes. But you can understand why he became, shall we say, maybe difficult to work for, maybe said some very strange things. And again, you know, when I get to Hulk Hogan in a few moments, folks, again, every person that you've idolized or you've liked, there is always going to be a tinge of controversy with them. Does that make you hate them any further? Of course not, because you can separate the artist from their personal life. Like Kevin Spacey, a terrific actor, but would I hang out with that guy in a bar? Of course I wouldn't, not in a million years. or maybe at a safe distance. So again, all the stuff about Ozzy walking into a record management meeting and biting the head off a dove, I thought that was actually all made up, but it turns out it was actually true. And then biting the head off a bat at a concert because the fan who brought it in said it was a dead bat. Well, dead or alive, it doesn't matter because you still need your tetanus shots, don't you? Which Ozzy thankfully got afterwards. And actually, when I heard of his passing, I wondered if it was attributed to those past shenanigans, but it turned out it wasn't. It was just unfortunate and very unlucky that Ozzy Osbourne passed away that he did. I actually thought the guy might have had at least a few more innings in him, and he probably would have if it wasn't for that back surgery, that blasted back surgery that definitely exacerbated or accelerated his condition, which is such a pity actually. But Black Sabbath, are they the greatest heavy metal group of all time? Well, that is of course that is entirely your opinion. No opinion is wrong or right, it just depends. Look, this is the first time on this channel that I'm actually having an obituary dedicated to Ozzy Osbourne, somebody of music of stature, because I've never done it before, and I thought I would actually headline this video with Ozzy. And of course, folks, it doesn't go without saying that I couldn't really complete this first segment of my video without mentioning, of course, Lee Francis and Bo Selector. And there was one episode that I saw where Sharon Osbourne, obviously the widow of Ozzy, they both turned up at Lee Francis's door. This is an episode of Bo Selector. I think it was always another show actually. And they proceeded to spit on him because he asked them to. I would show you the clip, but it's actually pretty gross and it might contravene terms and services of YouTube for something like gratuitous spitting or whatever, or like this gratuitous close-ups of my face and Alexa Bliss is behind me. Let me just adjust that quickly before this gets really, really steamy. Oh, that was quick. I didn't do anything at all.
Brother, I can't understand one word from your mouth. I just want to tell y'all, cut the cursing. All I can hear all night is bleep, bleep, motherfucking bleep.
But now let's talk about Hulk Hogan, folks, because 71 years of age, he passed away, and I was actually shocked by this. I was quite upset because, again, back in the 80s, if you were a kid in the UK in the 80s, it was a boring time. It was just so dull and boring. Is it any wonder I want to up sticks and leave England in the next 5 years? I know more talk, blah, blah, blah. Will it ever happen? I don't know. But the only place I've got my mind's eye on now is Japan. So we'll wait and see what happens, because I don't want to stay in this godforsaken country, but I'm just digressing again, folks. But yeah, the whole reason why I mentioned boring old England in the 80s, because it was until the A-Team came along, Hannibal, B.A. Baracus, Face and Murdoch, they really lit up the TV screens. It made me as a teenager think, oh shit, there's actually more out there than there is in this boring old country where Why Don't You was the staple of the day for kids. And the reason why I mentioned the A-Team, because Hulk Hogan appeared in an episode, and I thought, holy shit, this guy, who is he?
Yeah, we were pinned down in the hut, and you took the shell and knocked you cold. You took the shell. No, you took the shell.
I think they both took the shell.
Obviously, the year before, he was Thunder Lips in Rocky 3, well, Sylvester Stallone, and that was 1982. And my God, I mean, the guy, you look at him and he was larger than life. In fact, when I've been watching quite a few documentaries on the Hulkster in the last couple of weeks, even my mum sat down with me and I had to tell her who he was, because Hulk Hogan's image is not original, because Vince McMahon Sr. back in the day managed a guy called Billy Graham, not to be confused with the evangelical preacher of the same name. But if you look at Mr. Graham's stature and physique with the 24-inch pythons, and basically, while he had quite an impact on the wrestling scene back in the day, it was really when Hulk Hogan stepped in and did a few course corrections with his image that McMahon Sr. really liked his look and went with his signature style instead. So 31st of March 1985, Madison Square Gardens, the world was introduced to WWE as a televised event, and millions of people around America were tuning in, and the debut of Hulk Hogan right on this particular moment in time. And Hulk Hogan, well, we are going to say a few more things about him. If he opened the door for wrestlers to transition from that into acting, then people like John Cena and The Rock kicked that door down right. And obviously Cody Rhodes, when you think about his cameo appearance in the recent Naked Gun film with Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson. So he really did pave the way for the fact that you didn't have to be stuck in one arena. You can go to many other arenas. Obviously the WWF, eventually WWE tournaments that Hulk Hogan were involved in were just some of the best things you had ever seen. And you know what? I didn't actually know this, but while as Terry Bollea, that's his real name, I mean, he had a really great physique. But I didn't know this, and Hulk actually said this himself. And by the way, Hulk, yep, obviously a Marvel character, they did sue WWF for copyright infringement or stealing the name of, or in the end, I think what they came to an agreement that Marvel will get some of the royalties, because yeah, you're parading around calling yourself Hulkster. Lou Ferrigno at the time was in the Incredible Hulk. We're going to sue you. All this nonsense is really quite fascinating and convoluted where Marvel are concerned in all of this. But Hulk Hogan used to have, and this is before a match, 12 eggs, that's including the yolks, and a couple of beef patties. Or as you know, you and I will call them burgers, beef burgers. And that's insane. And then after match, he would wash down or he would regain his energy through about 4 or 5 beers, or he would drink. Now that could be all urban myth, but by Hulk's admission, he just ate badly. Anything like Denny's, he would eat them for a post-match meal recovery. That was the culture of bodybuilding back in the day. And why I mention that, because when you see the guy's physique, he never had that sort of classic stereotypical belly bulge from eating all that food. It all disappeared into him and just out the other end. But of course, I've got to touch on that controversy from 2015 when Gawker leaked that tape of Hulk saying the N-word. And of course, who was that guy, Joey Swole, who recently made an apology video? First of all, he made a video saying, oh, Hulk Hogan was my hero growing up, but I didn't know this bad stuff about him, so now I'm apologizing. It did not go well for him.
In the 60s and 50s and 40s, there was a racial term, I'm not even going to say it, right? But it's not a term you're supposed to use anymore, right? So he's already facing backlash. He goes and makes a video, and he did a live as well. And he says a racial term like an asshole, didn't realize it was a bad thing to say, and he took even more heat.
Listen, I can post Hulk Hogan if I want to. Just because somebody makes a mistake in their life doesn't mean that they haven't done good things. I don't know what he did, and he said something 20 years ago and apologized for it. If you're going to attack me, you better go after the colored athletes and the people that are black and minority that went and posted him as well.
Well, I'm here to tell you folks that I know all about the stuff with Hulk and using the N-word and what was the reason that he used it. And of course, it's never justified to use that, but I get people have their prejudices because his beautiful daughter Brooke was dating a man of color, and Hulk didn't approve of it for whatever reason. He might have been a lowlife, he might not have been a clean-cut businessman type, and that's what I'm going with. Maybe he just looked like a lowlife, which reminded me of Layer Cake and Eddie Temple as brilliantly played by Michael Gambon, because remember in that film, his wayward posh daughter is dating a drug dealer called Kinky, who he couldn't stand. So when I've heard that, I just thought of Eddie Temple. And by the way, Michael Gambon, R.I.P., the absolutely best thing in Layer Cake. Well, then again, there is Sienna Miller in her underwear, and I really did truly appreciate that. And Daniel Craig turned her down. Holy shit, man.
Anyway, I'll keep an eye open, mustache off, get home, wash and brush up. Opera tonight, The Damnation of Faust. Man sells his soul to the devil.
Hulk said that particular phrase, and it doesn't bother me. Why? Because people try to cancel the owner of Papa John's because allegedly he's a racist as well. Does that stop me from eating that pizza? No, because I love the pizza. If John Schlatter, I think that's his name from Papa John's, if he walked up to my door and called me a rude word, or like a racist slur, would that stop me from buying his pizza? No, because the guy don't know me from Adam and he wouldn't have a reason to pick a bone with me. If Hulk Hogan insulted me in the street by any other means, would I hate him? No, be like, oh, whatever, man, you must be having a bad day, dude. So yeah, despite Hulk's imperfections as a guy with issues, I still think he's one of the greatest, maybe the greatest wrestler in terms of being iconic, telling the kids to eat their vitamins and say their prayers, all that good stuff. And I think the guy's left a lasting legacy where the positive will certainly outweigh the negative. And on that one, ladies and gentlemen, if you did end up enjoying this video today, make sure you don't sit there and gawp at Alexa Bliss behind me. Instead, you should just like this video, share it, and tell YouTube you really enjoyed it, because every now and then you get these screens popping up saying, was this video really good, as a recommendation from YouTube to you? Well, of course you say yes. You tick all the boxes, give me 5 out of 5 stars and maybe 5 bras in the process, and I will catch you catching me for the return of the next video.
Oh, I'm gonna do shit. I can't even concentrate. Train, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, be true to yourself, true to your country, be a real American. Whew.